Have you ever been betrayed so publicly that your body froze before your brain could even process it? That's exactly what happened to me, on the day I should have been the happiest mother alive. It was my daughter's graduation, her moment, our family's moment. I had spent weeks planning every detail: her favorite cake, a private dinner with close friends, a surprise gift she'd treasure forever. Everything was perfect. Until my husband, the man I'd been married to for 19 years, leaned over, smiled, and whispered in my ear that he was leaving me. Yes. At our daughter's graduation. With cameras flashing and everyone clapping. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My smile stayed frozen for the photos, but inside, I was collapsing. But here's the part he didn't see coming. I already knew. And while he thought he was shocking me, I was already setting the trap. Have you ever smiled through tears, knowing you're forging the exact path your betrayer never saw coming? That was me, Sarah, in the hushed hours after Eric's bombshell, determined not to shatter our daughter's perfect graduation day. I walked into the reception area just behind Chloe, her diploma in hand, and plastered on a warm smile as guests congratulated her. My heart pounded like war drums, but I kept my voice steady. Isn't she amazing? I whispered to Eric's assistant, his secret lover, Jessica, who offered a silken nod of pity. She thought she'd won me over with sympathetic glances. She was wrong. Inside, I teetered between fury and grief. A lifetime of shared mornings and whispered promises boiled to betrayal in a single word: I'm leaving. Yet I refused to let his cruelty steal my joy for Chloe. I tucked away my shattered pieces behind laughter and small talk, each step a calculated move in a game only I knew I was playing. That evening, while everyone toasted with champagne, I slipped away to the terrace. The night air was cool, and I dialed my sister, Emma, the one family member I'd already trusted with my plan. He thinks I don't know about Jessica, I said, voice low but firm. Emma's reply crackled through the phone: he'll find out soon enough. You have the upper hand. In silence, I allowed myself a single tear, then set it aside. I had already begun gathering proof of Eric's affair: screenshots of covert messages, the payment trail to secret dinners, even Jessica's hasty exit from the office that morning. Each fragment of evidence a brick in the wall I'd build around his betrayal. Returning inside, I joined the circle around Chloe as guests signed her yearbook and posed for photos. Cameras clicked. Eric stood awkwardly by, guilt flickering in his eyes. I leaned in, arms around my daughter, and whispered only to her, "You deserve so much better." Then I turned and offered Eric a polite nod, letting him wonder if his secret was still safe. But Jessica, a stranger clad in silk, watched me with narrowed eyes. I knew her type: they prey on weakness and expose it for their gain. She believed she'd humiliated me forever. She believed I was broken. What she didn't know was that I was already turning pain into power. And the real celebration, my daughter's and mine, would come when Eric realized that the damsel he cast aside was the architect of his undoing. Have you ever realized that your silence speaks louder than any scream? I felt that power pulse through me as I watched Eric vanish into the night, leaving behind the hollow echoes of his betrayal. The morning after the graduation, the house was oddly peaceful. Chloe bounced down the stairs, her graduation sash around her neck, unaware of the storm I was brewing. As she chatted about her plans for college, I served her pancakes and hid the folders of evidence under a stack of papers on my desk. Every move in the kitchen felt like part of a chess opening, carefully orchestrated, yet appearing entirely natural. Eric didn't show up for breakfast. He didn't return my calls. His affair with Jessica had given him the false confidence to disappear, believing I'd be too heartbroken to act. But I already had the proof I needed: text threads where Jessica cooed over his achievements, invoices for dinners at upscale restaurants, and even a reservation under a fake name at a resort for the weekend. All of it laid bare the secret life he thought he could hide. By noon, I discreetly emailed the gathered documents to my sister, Emma, and to my brother-in-law, Michael, who was an attorney specializing in family law. The subject line simply read, "When betrayal demands justice." No flourish, no emotion, just cold, unyielding intent. I then invited my in-laws over for afternoon tea under the pretense of celebrating Chloe's big day once more. As they arrived, hugs and smiles were exchanged, and I poured the tea as though nothing had changed. Each gentle clink of the porcelain cup felt like a countdown to Eric's undoing. While they chatted, I watched their expressions carefully, gauging their trust in me. My mother-in-law sighed, praising Eric's dedication to the family business. My father-in-law nodded proudly, oblivious to his son's duplicity. I let their praise hang in the air for a moment longer before I spoke. "Actually," I began softly, "I think there's more to today's celebration than meets the eye." I caught Michael's eye, and he discreetly placed his hand on the stack of folders peeking out from under the tablecloth. My in-law's smiles faltered. "What do you mean, dear?" my mother-in-law asked, her voice tinged with concern. I took a breath. "I've seen Grandpa's ledgers, and had a conversation with the compliance attorney." I slid the documents across the table. "It seems there have been some irregular expenses. Dinners at places none of us were invited to, hotel stays under false names, gifts sent to someone named Jessica." Shock rippled through the room. My father-in-law's face turned ashen, my mother-in-law's knuckles whitened around her teacup. I stood, feeling the gravity of the moment settle over the small gathering. "He's been living a double life," I said quietly. "And now, we need to decide how to protect our family's name, and our granddaughter's future." In that silence, I realized that I had ignited something greater than revenge. I had demanded accountability from the very people who once turned a blind eye. And as their murmurs filled the room, I knew they would stand with me, or watch Eric's world crumble alone. Because the next move belonged to me. And this time, the checkmate would be swift and complete. Have you ever orchestrated a moment so precise that every word, every glance, was part of a symphony of justice? That evening, I did. The living room was set, photos of Chloe's graduation on display, soft music playing, and a spread of appetizers that Eric loved. Everything was meticulously arranged to evoke a sense of normalcy, a facade for the storm about to break. Eric arrived, his demeanor casual, perhaps expecting a family gathering to smooth over any tensions. He greeted everyone with his usual charm, but I noticed the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes when he saw the assembled family, my parents, his parents, Emma, and Michael. We all took our seats, and I stood, holding a folder. "Eric," I began, my voice steady, "we need to talk." He looked around, confusion giving way to apprehension. "What's this about?" I opened the folder, revealing the evidence, photos, messages, receipts. "It's about honesty, respect, and the vows we once took." His face paled as he scanned the documents. "Sarah, I can explain." I raised a hand, silencing him. This isn't just about you and me. It's about the family you've disrespected, the daughter you've humiliated, and the trust you've shattered. His parents looked away, ashamed. My father-in-law spoke, his voice heavy. Eric, we raised you better than this. Eric's facade crumbled. He sank into the chair, head in hands. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I leaned in, my voice cold but controlled. But it did. And now, there are consequences. Michael handed him a document, a separation agreement that protected Chloe's future and ensured Eric's responsibilities were met. Sign it, I said. It's time to take responsibility. Eric looked up, tears in his eyes. I'm sorry. I nodded, a mix of sadness and resolve in my heart. Apologies don't erase actions. But accountability can begin to mend what's broken. As he signed the document, I felt a weight lift. This was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for me, but for Chloe and our entire family. Penso por segundo. The moment Eric left, papers signed and doors closed behind him, the house exhaled a collective sigh of relief. Chloe hugged me tight, her small arms anchoring me back to what truly mattered. Mom, you saved our family, she whispered. In her voice, I heard both gratitude and hope. In the days that followed, I set new routines. No more tiptoeing around whispers or forced smiles. I took charge of our home, our finances, and our future. With Michael's legal advice, I revisited the separation agreement, ensuring Chloe's education fund was secure. With Emma's help, I organized monthly family dinners, reinforcing the bonds that Eric had tried to break. At work, I reclaimed my ambition. My colleagues, aware of what had happened, offered support. Yet I found myself drawn to bigger dreams. I started drafting plans for a new home, a place where Chloe and I could thrive without the shadow of betrayal. One afternoon, an unexpected email popped into my inbox, a job offer from a prestigious firm I'd once admired. They'd heard of my resilience, my integrity. They wanted someone with my skills, and my story. It was an opportunity I'd never dared to chase before. I stared at the screen, heart racing. This wasn't about running away from the past, it was about stepping into a future I deserved. I clicked accept. That evening, I told Chloe around the dinner table. She looked up, eyes wide. Mom, that's amazing. She flung her arms around me. In that embrace, I felt the final piece of my power return, belief in myself. Outside, the sky was painted with sunset hues. I stood on the porch, feeling the breeze against my face. Betrayed and abandoned, yes, but never defeated. Because I had turned heartbreak into strength. And this chapter of my life was just beginning. 2 months had passed since the graduation incident. My new job was demanding but rewarding. Chloe was thriving. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Then, out of nowhere, Eric showed up at my office. He looked tired, thinner, and strangely unsure of himself. I was in a meeting when the receptionist buzzed me. Sarah, there's a man asking to see you. Says it's personal. I walked out to the lobby and there he was, standing in a suit that looked wrinkled and cheap. For a moment, I didn't recognize him. He looked small. Can we talk? He asked, voice low. I crossed my arms. About what? You already said everything at our daughter's graduation. He looked away, embarrassed. Things didn't work out with Jessica. Of course they didn't. The affair had been built on ego and fantasy. Real life doesn't tolerate that for long. She quit the company a few weeks ago. And I was let go. They said I wasn't performing. I'm in a bad place, Sarah. I stood there, unmoved. So many emotions bubbled beneath the surface, anger, pity, disbelief. but I kept my voice steady. You chose this, Eric. You chose her. You chose to humiliate me in front of our daughter. And now you want sympathy. I made a mistake. No, Eric. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. You made a choice. Repeatedly. He lowered his gaze. I'm sorry. For a moment, I let the silence hang heavy between us. Then I said what I never thought I'd be strong enough to say. I forgive you. But forgiveness isn't an invitation. It's closure. For me. He blinked, stunned. I turned and walked away, heels clicking against the marble floor like punctuation marks on a final sentence. That night, I lit a candle at dinner, not in mourning, but in celebration. Because the man who once broke me now stood in the wreckage of his own choices, and I, finally, was free. There's something incredibly powerful about starting over, not because you were forced to, but because you chose to. After Eric's visit to my office, I felt an odd sense of peace. I had no more questions, no more what-ifs. Everything was out in the open, and I had survived it. Better yet, I was thriving. I threw myself into work with a new kind of energy. The team I led respected me, and my ideas were finally being heard. I began mentoring a younger woman in the company who reminded me of myself when I first started, nervous but full of fire. Meanwhile, Chloe and I were closer than ever. One evening, as we sat together watching a movie, she turned to me and said, "Mom, I don't know how you stayed so calm at graduation." I was shaking. I smiled. I've had a lot of practice keeping my head high when others expect me to fall. She leaned on my shoulder. You're the strongest person I know. That moment meant more than any apology Eric could have ever given me. But life wasn't all smooth. I had moments of doubt, of loneliness. Nights where I stared at the ceiling wondering if love, real, respectful, safe love, would ever find its way back to me. I wasn't in a rush. I was healing. And healing, I learned, doesn't follow anyone's timeline but your own. One Sunday morning, as I browsed the farmer's market with Chloe, a man struck up a conversation about the tomatoes we were both inspecting. He was kind, funny, and didn't recognize me as the woman from the graduation story. He only saw me for who I was now. We exchanged numbers. I wasn't sure what would come of it. But for the first time, I felt open to the possibility of something new, on my terms. And that felt like the real beginning. You'd think that after everything I'd been through, Eric's betrayal, the public humiliation, the emotional wreckage, I'd finally be free of the chaos. But the past has a funny way of echoing through your present, especially when people can't seem to let go. Word had spread fast about what happened at the graduation. Friends, co-workers, even extended family had heard some version of it. Most people didn't dare bring it up. But some couldn't help themselves. A few weeks after the farmer's market, I ran into an old friend of Eric's at a cafe. He looked uncomfortable the moment he saw me, as if he wasn't sure whether to offer sympathy or shame. I just wanted to say, he muttered, I always thought you deserved better. It was meant to be kind, but it was laced with guilt. I smiled politely and left, but the encounter stayed with me. People were starting to realize that the story Eric told for years, that our marriage had been drifting, and that I didn't support him, was a lie. The truth was surfacing, and with it came whispers of regret. Eric, for his part, hadn't stopped trying to talk to Chloe. She told me he kept messaging her, apologizing for everything, blaming the affair on a moment of weakness, and claiming he had been manipulated by the other woman. It was too late. My daughter had seen everything. She didn't need me to explain why I'd moved on. She lived through the hurt with me. One night, Chloe showed me a message from him. Asterisk, your mom's turning you against me. Asterisk. I felt my stomach tighten. But before I could say anything, Chloe replied to him without hesitation. No, Dad. You did that all by yourself. Asterisk. The past may have been full of betrayal and pain, but it no longer had power over us. Not when the truth had taken root and was finally being spoken aloud. We weren't hiding anymore. We were healing in the light. 6 months later, I no longer recognized the woman I used to be, exhausted, anxious, constantly walking on eggshells in my own home. Now, I woke up with a sense of clarity. I had my own place, a stable job I loved, and Chloe, who had become stronger than I ever imagined. The day everything came full circle was a regular Saturday. Chloe had just gotten accepted into her dream college. We were celebrating with takeout and laughter when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Eric. Asterisk, can we talk? I miss what we had. I made a mistake. Asterisk. I stared at the screen for a moment, not with sadness, but disbelief. After all the lies, after all the damage, he still thought there was a chance. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had said everything I needed to the day he stood up in front of our daughter and tried to shatter our family. What he didn't understand back then was that I wasn't just losing a husband, I was finding myself. A week later, I heard through mutual friends that things had completely fallen apart for him. His relationship with the other woman had ended badly. Apparently, she cheated on him with someone from their office. Classic irony. His professional life was a mess, too. He was passed over for a big promotion and had been warned about misconduct in the workplace. And me? I was doing just fine. Some people think revenge is a grand, dramatic gesture. But I've learned it's quieter than that. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply living well, unbothered, unapologetic, and free. As Chloe and I stood on her college campus during orientation, she squeezed my hand and said, Asterisk, Mom, I'm proud of you. Asterisk. That was it. That was everything. The woman he tried to break was gone. In her place stood someone he'd never have the power to hurt again.